Before Donald J. Trump became a brand, before he became a billionaire, before he became the most controversial president in American history, he was just a boy from Queens, New York. Not Manhattan, not Wall Street. Queens. Donald John Trump was born on June 14, 1946, in a neighborhood called Jamaica Estates, a quiet upper-middle-class area in Queens. America had just won World War II. The country was confident, expanding, dreaming big. And in one solid brick house, a boy was born into a family that already understood one thing very clearly: money, power, and winning matter. Donald's father was Fred Trump, a tough, disciplined real estate developer. Fred Trump was not flashy. He didn't chase headlines. He built houses, collected rents, counted numbers, and believed deeply in control, order, and dominance. Fred believed the world was divided into two types of people: winners and losers. And he had no intention of raising a loser. Donald's mother, Mary Ann MacLeod Trump, was very different. She came from a poor village in Scotland. She was softer, polite, religious, and emotionally warmer than Fred. From her, Donald learned confidence in public, charm, and presentation. From his father, he learned aggression, competition, and never backing down. This mix would later define Donald Trump. A loud, aggressive child. Donald was not a quiet kid. Teachers noticed it early. He talked back. He challenged authority. He wanted to be first in everything. He didn't like losing games. He didn't like being corrected. And most importantly, he hated being told what to do. At home, Fred Trump ran the household like a business. Rules were strict. Discipline was non-negotiable. Praise was rare. Respect had to be earned. Donald learned quickly that attention came through dominance. If he was loud, people noticed. If he pushed back, people stepped aside. If he won, he was valued. This wasn't cruelty, it was training. The turning point: military school. By the time Donald was 13, his behavior had become a problem. He was rebellious. He challenged teachers. He was getting into trouble. Fred Trump made a decision that would shape Donald's entire personality. He sent him to New York Military Academy. This was not punishment. This was strategy. Military school was harsh: uniforms, ranks, discipline, no excuses, no softness, no room for weakness. Donald hated it at first, but then something changed. He realized that hierarchy could be conquered, that rules could be used, that leadership brought power. Donald began to thrive. He learned how to command attention, how to intimidate without touching, how to win respect by confidence alone. He became a leader among cadets, not because he was kind, but because he was bold. This is where the Trump mindset truly formed. The core belief. By his teenage years, Donald Trump had developed a belief that would never leave him: if you don't dominate, you get dominated. This belief would guide him through business, media, politics, and life itself. Queens gave him toughness. His father gave him ambition. Military school gave him discipline. Manhattan would come later. Much later. But first, the boy had to decide one thing. Would he live in his father's shadow, or build a name so loud the world couldn't ignore it? That question would define everything that followed. Military school did not break Donald Trump. It sharpened him. At the New York Military Academy, Donald learned something more important than discipline or obedience. He learned how power really works. Power, he discovered, doesn't always come from being the smartest or the strongest. Power comes from confidence, from presence, and from making others believe you belong at the top. Donald quickly understood the system. The academy had ranks, uniforms, rules, and structure. Most boys followed orders quietly, hoping not to get noticed. Donald did the opposite. He stood out. He spoke loudly. He competed aggressively. He pushed himself into leadership roles. And slowly, something interesting happened. People began to follow him. Learning to perform. Donald Trump realized early that life is not just about ability. It's about performance. At the academy, when officers walked into a room, Donald made sure he was visible. When competitions happened, he made sure his name was remembered. When conflicts arose, he never backed down. He learned to project strength, even when he felt uncertain. This would become one of his greatest skills, looking confident, even when the situation was risky. In later years, critics would say Trump exaggerated, bragged, and overpromised. Supporters would say he inspired belief. Both sides were right, but the habit began here, at military school. Sports, competition, and winning. Donald loved sports, baseball, football, anything competitive. But he didn't love sports for teamwork. He loved them for winning. Losing, in Trump's mind, was not a lesson. It was humiliation. This belief separated him from others. Where most people learned cooperation, Trump learned dominance. Win big, lose nothing, never apologize. These ideas would later define his business and political style. The father's shadow. Even at military school, Fred Trump's influence was everywhere. Fred visited. Fred monitored progress. Fred judged results. Donald desperately wanted his father's approval, but Fred Trump did not give praise easily. To Fred, success was expected. Failure was unacceptable. This created a deep internal drive in Donald Trump. Prove yourself. Again and again. Many psychologists later argued that Trump's need for attention, praise, and validation came from this early dynamic. Whether that is true or not, one thing is certain. Donald Trump learned to equate self-worth with winning. College years, Fordham to Penn. After military school, Donald attended Fordham University in the Bronx. But Fordham was temporary. Donald had bigger ambitions. In 1966, he transferred to the Wharton School of Finance at the University of Pennsylvania, one of the most prestigious business schools in America. This move was strategic. Wharton carried power, status, and credibility. It sounded elite. It sounded important. Donald Trump understood branding even then. At Wharton, Donald wasn't known as the smartest student. He wasn't an academic star, but he was known as confident, assertive, and focused on real estate. While others studied theory, Donald talked about deals. While others dreamed, Donald planned. Avoiding the Vietnam War. This period also included a controversial chapter. The Vietnam War was raging. Young American men were being drafted. Donald Trump received multiple draft deferments, including a medical deferment for bone spurs in his heel. Some saw this as privilege. Others saw it as smart avoidance. Donald rarely spoke about Vietnam later. It was not a victory story, and Trump prefers victory narratives. This silence itself tells us something important. Trump talks about what makes him look strong and avoids what makes him look vulnerable. The end of the beginning. By the time Donald Trump graduated from Wharton in 1968, he had formed his core identity. He believed he was destined for greatness. He believed rules were tools, not limits. He believed winning justified everything, but he had not yet proven anything on his own. He was still Fred Trump's son. The next phase would be different. The next phase would be dangerous, because Donald Trump was about to leave Queens and step into Manhattan, the most brutal business battlefield in America. And Manhattan does not forgive mistakes. Manhattan was not just another city. It was a battlefield. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, Manhattan real estate was controlled by old money, quiet power, and deeply connected families. Deals were made behind closed doors. Names mattered. Reputation mattered. Outsiders were not welcomed, and Donald Trump was an outsider. He came from Queens, a place Manhattan elites looked down on. He was young, he was loud, and he was the son of a man who built middle-class housing, not luxury towers. But Donald Trump didn't want to follow his father's path. He wanted something bigger, breaking away from Fred Trump. Fred Trump was a master of safe business. He built affordable apartments in Brooklyn and Queens. He worked with government programs. He avoided risk. He avoided publicity. Donald Trump hated that approach. To him, safe meant small. Quiet meant invisible. Donald wanted skyscrapers, headlines, and deals so big that people had no choice but to notice him. This created tension between father and son. Fred wanted Donald to manage existing properties. Donald wanted to conquer Manhattan. Eventually, Fred gave him a chance, and money. Not a gift. A loan. Donald Trump would later claim it was a small loan. Critics would say it was massive, but what mattered wasn't the amount. It was the confidence it gave him. The first big bet Donald's first major Manhattan project was the Commodore Hotel, a decaying, bankrupt property near Grand Central Station. Most developers avoided it. The neighborhood was rough, crime was high, the building was outdated. Donald saw opportunity. He negotiated tax breaks from the city. He convinced banks to lend money. He partnered with Hyatt Hotels. This deal showed something important. Donald Trump could sell belief. He sold the city on revival. He sold banks on profit. He sold partners on vision. In 1980, the hotel reopened as the Grand Hyatt New York. It was a success. And just like that, Donald Trump arrived. The birth of Trump as a brand. Donald didn't just build buildings. He built his name. He put Trump in big gold letters. He made sure journalists knew who he was. He gave bold quotes. He exaggerated success. Because Donald Trump understood something many businessmen didn't. In America, perception creates reality. If people believed you were winning, you were winning. Media attention became his fuel. Love him or hate him, people talked about him. And Donald Trump loved that. Confidence or arrogance. To supporters, Trump was fearless. To critics, he was arrogant. He took credit loudly. He dismissed critics publicly. He framed every deal as the greatest ever. But beneath the bravado was a deeper fear. Failure in Manhattan would destroy him, so he attacked first. He bragged first. He dominated the conversation. This strategy would later appear again, in television, in politics, and in the White House. The end of Chapter 1. By the early 1980s, Donald Trump was no longer just a rich kid from Queens. He was a Manhattan name, not yet a legend, not yet untouchable, but visible, powerful, and hungry for more. The boy from Queens had entered the lion's den, and instead of running, he smiled. By the early 1980s, Donald Trump was addicted to scale. Big buildings, big risks, big headlines. Success with the Grand Hyatt didn't calm him, it emboldened him. Trump believed momentum was everything. If you stopped moving forward, you became weak, and weakness, in his mind, invited attack. So he pushed harder. The Trump Tower vision. Donald Trump wanted a signature, not just another building, a monument. In 1979, he set his sights on Fifth Avenue, one of the most expensive and prestigious streets in the world. The plan was bold, almost reckless. A 58-story luxury skyscraper. Glass, steel, marble, gold. Banks were skeptical. Competitors laughed. Critics said it was impossible. Trump ignored them. He borrowed heavily. He negotiated aggressively. He promised luxury beyond anything New York had seen. In 1983, Trump Tower opened. It was dramatic. It was flashy. It was unapologetic. And it screamed one message. Donald Trump had arrived. Luxury as power. Trump understood something deeply American. Luxury isn't just comfort. It's status. Trump Tower wasn't for everyone. It was for winners, for celebrities, for people who wanted to be seen, gold interiors, a giant atrium, the Trump name everywhere. Critics mocked the style, buyers loved the feeling, and Trump didn't care about criticism, only attention. Debt, the invisible engine. Behind the scenes, Trump's empire ran on debt. Massive loans, complex deals, high leverage. Trump believed debt was a tool. If you owe the bank $1 million, that's your problem, he once said. If you owe the bank $1 billion, that's the bank's problem. This mindset allowed him to grow fast, but it also planted the seeds of future collapse. Casinos, airlines, and ego Trump didn't stop at real estate. He bought casinos in Atlantic City. He launched Trump Plaza, Trump Taj Mahal. He even bought an airline, Trump Shuttle. Each deal was bigger than the last. Each carried more risk. But Trump believed his name could fix anything. If it had Trump on it, it would win. This belief would be tested brutally. Media, fame, and control. Trump became a media machine. He called reporters himself. He leaked stories. He shaped narratives. He understood that in America, fame is power. The more famous he became, the harder it was to ignore him. And Donald Trump never wanted to be ignored. Every empire faces a moment of truth. For Donald Trump, that moment came in the late 1980s and early 1990s. The same forces that had lifted him, debt, confidence, speed, now turned against him. The debt trap closes. In Trump's empire looked magnificent from the outside. Inside, it was suffocating. Interest rates rose. Cash flow tightened. Casinos underperformed. Banks began to worry. Trump owed billions, not millions, billions. For the first time in his life, Donald Trump was not in control, and control was everything to him. Public humiliation. In 1990, headlines changed. No longer, Trump builds the biggest. Now, Trump on the brink. The media that once celebrated him now mocked him. Late-night comedians joked about him. Business magazines questioned his intelligence. Trump hated this more than the debt. Money could be renegotiated. Humiliation could not be tolerated. Bankruptcy, but not personal ruin. Here's where many people misunderstand Trump's story. Donald Trump did not personally declare bankruptcy. His companies did, multiple times. This distinction mattered to Trump, deeply. To him, personal bankruptcy meant failure. Corporate bankruptcy meant strategy. He negotiated aggressively with banks. He threatened collapse. He leveraged his fame. And banks agreed to restructure. Why? Because Trump was too famous to fail. Losing everything. Almost at his lowest point, Trump reportedly had less than $1 million in liquid cash. For a man who once owned private jets and yachts, this was devastating. He lost his airline, his yacht control of casinos. But he kept something critical, his name, and his instinct for survival, a changed man, or not. Some people expected Trump to become cautious. He didn't. Instead, he learned new rules. Never admit defeat. Control the story. Blame external forces. He reframed collapse as resilience. I learned more from my failures than my successes, he said. Whether that was true or branding, it worked. The lesson that defined him. This period shaped Trump's worldview permanently. He came to believe systems are rigged, institutions are weak, only fighters survive. These beliefs would later define his politics. By the late 1990s, Donald Trump faced a hard truth. He was still famous, but not powerful. His real estate empire was smaller. Banks didn't trust him like before. Big deals were harder to close. In the traditional business world, Trump's influence was fading. So he did something very few businessmen would dare to do. He changed the battlefield. Understanding a new America was changing. Television had become king. Celebrities had more influence than CEOs. People trusted familiar faces more than balance sheets. Donald Trump understood this shift instinctively. If power no longer came only from money, it could come from attention. And no one understood attention better than Trump. The birth of The Apprentice. In 2004, NBC launched a reality TV show called The Apprentice. The concept was simple. Contestants competed in business challenges. Trump judged them. One person was fired each week. But the show did something much bigger. It rebranded Donald Trump. On television, Trump was decisive, confident, always in control. Viewers didn't see bankruptcy. They didn't see debt. They saw a billionaire boss in a skyscraper saying, "You're fired." And they believed it. Television versus reality. The Trump shown on TV was partly a character. Producers edited scenes, dramatic music played, failures were minimized. But that didn't matter, because perception is reality, especially on television. For millions of Americans, this version of Trump became the truth. Fame restores power. After The Apprentice, everything changed. Trump was back. Speaking fees increased. Licensing deals exploded. His name became profitable again. Trump didn't need to own buildings anymore. He licensed his name. Trump hotels, Trump golf courses, Trump products, low risk, high visibility. It was a smarter, safer empire. A new kind of influence. Trump now influenced people who had never read a business magazine. Truck drivers, factory workers, middle America. They didn't care about Wall Street numbers. They cared that Trump looked strong, confident, decisive, unapologetic. This emotional connection would matter later. Very much later. Donald Trump didn't wake up one morning and decide to run for president. Politics came to him slowly, through anger, attention, and opportunity. The outsider advantage. By the late 2000s, Americans were frustrated. Factories had closed, jobs had moved overseas, wars felt endless, politicians sounded empty. Donald Trump was watching, and unlike traditional politicians, he wasn't careful with words. He said things others avoided. He mocked political correctness. He spoke in simple, emotional language. To many Americans, it felt honest. To others, it felt dangerous. But nobody ignored it. Birtherism and the media megaphone. Trump's first major political moment came when he questioned President Barack Obama's birthplace. The claim was false, but it dominated media. Trump was everywhere. Cable news interviews, headlines, critics accused him of racism. Supporters said he was asking questions. Trump didn't care which side was louder. He only cared that he was the center of attention again. Learning the political game. From this moment, Trump learned something critical. Politics wasn't about policy first. It was about emotion, fear, pride, anger, identity. Trump spoke directly to those feelings. He positioned himself as anti-elite, anti-system, pro-forgotten Americans, and the message stuck. Social media as a weapon. Twitter became Trump's battlefield. Short messages, direct attacks, no filters. He bypassed journalists and spoke directly to people. Every tweet created outrage, and outrage created free publicity. Trump understood something modern politicians struggled with. Controversy is currency. Testing the waters. By 2012, Trump was openly teasing a presidential run. Many laughed. He wasn't taken seriously. But Trump was studying crowds' reactions, media cycles. He was learning what worked, and what worked was conflict. The shift is complete. Trump was no longer just a TV star. He was a political personality, loved, hated, debated, and in America that combination is powerful. On June 16, 2015, Donald Trump walked down a golden escalator in Trump Tower. It looked theatrical. It looked staged. Many thought it was a joke. It wasn't. That moment marked the beginning of one of the most shocking political campaigns in modern American history. An announcement that broke the rules. Trump didn't sound like a politician. He didn't use careful language. He didn't read from a script. He didn't apologize. He attacked. Politicians, the media trade deals immigration, and he did it with blunt force. To Washington insiders, it sounded reckless. To millions of Americans, it sounded refreshing. Trump wasn't polished. He was raw. Make America great again. The slogan was simple, not detailed, not specific, but emotional. Make America great again. It implied America was once strong, America had been cheated. Someone had to fight back. Trump positioned himself as that fighter. He wasn't promising perfection. He was promising revenge against a broken system. The media trap. The media underestimated Trump. They treated him as entertainment. They covered him constantly. often critically. But every headline helped him. Trump dominated news cycles without paying for ads. His opponents spent millions. Trump spent words, and words were enough. The Republican battlefield. The Republican Party didn't want him. Party elites resisted. Donors panicked. Experienced politicians mocked him. But Trump attacked harder. He gave rivals nicknames. He questioned their strength. He turned debates into spectacles. Policy didn't win those debates. Personality did. And Trump's personality filled the room. The voters. No one listened to Trump connected with voters, others ignored. Factory workers, rural Americans, veterans, people who felt invisible. He spoke about lost jobs, border control, national pride. Not in academic language, but in simple terms. And they listened, winning the nomination. One by one, his opponents fell. Not because Trump was the most experienced, but because he was the most unavoidable. By 2016, Donald Trump was the Republican nominee. The man they laughed at was now one step from the White House. The 2016 election was not just a political contest. It was a cultural war. On one side stood Hillary Clinton, experienced, prepared, supported by institutions, media, and political elites. On the other side stood Donald Trump, angry, unpredictable, and openly hostile to the system itself. This wasn't just Democrat versus Republican, it was establishment versus outsider. Two Americas, one election. Hillary Clinton represented continuity, experience, policy knowledge, global alliances. Donald Trump represented disruption, change, risk, rebellion. Voters weren't choosing policies as much as they were choosing identity. Who are we? What does America stand for? Who gets to speak? The debate contrast. During debates, the contrast was sharp. Clinton was calm, detailed, and professional. Trump was aggressive, dismissive, and emotional. Critics said Trump lacked substance. Supporters said Clinton lacked soul. Trump interrupted. He mocked. He dominated attention. And attention mattered more than facts, scandals, and survival. Both candidates faced scandals. Clinton battled email controversies. Trump faced accusations, leaked tapes, and constant criticism. Many believed Trump's campaign was finished, again and again. But every attack strengthened his bond with supporters. They saw him as persecuted. They saw him as fighting for them. The media and the map. Most media predicted a Clinton victory. Polls, experts, analysts. But Trump focused on places others ignored. Rust Belt states, rural counties, small towns. He spoke directly to economic pain and cultural loss. And people showed up. Election night shock. On November 8, 2016, the impossible happened. State by state, Trump won. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. The map turned red. Donald Trump had won the presidency. Against all predictions, against all expectations, America was stunned. On January 20th, 2017, Donald J. Trump placed his hand on a Bible and became the 45th President of the United States. The moment was historic, but it was not calm. From the very first day, Trump's presidency felt different, louder, rougher, and more confrontational than anything America had seen before. An unconventional President Trump did not arrive quietly. He criticized the media during his inauguration. He questioned crowd sizes. He attacked opponents on social media. Presidents were expected to unify. Trump preferred to fight. To his supporters, this was strength. To his critics, it was recklessness. But Trump had no intention of changing. Governing like a campaign. Trump never stopped campaigning. He spoke directly to his base. He held rallies. He used Twitter daily. Traditional presidents governed through institutions. Trump governed through attention. If the conversation was about him, he was winning. The inner circle. Trump surrounded himself with outsiders and loyalists, business executives, family members, political newcomers. This angered Washington. But Trump distrusted the establishment. He believed loyalty mattered more than experience, and loyalty, once broken, was punished publicly. Resistance everywhere. From day one, Trump faced resistance. Protests erupted. Media scrutiny intensified. Government leaks appeared. Trump framed this as proof. The system is fighting back, and his supporters believed him. Early executive actions. Trump moved fast. He signed executive orders on immigration trade regulations. Some were blocked by courts. Some sparked global reactions. Chaos followed. But Trump believed speed mattered more than approval. The new political reality America was no longer just divided. It was polarized. Families argued. Friends unfriended each other. Politics became personal. Trump didn't create all of this, but he amplified it. Donald Trump governed under a shadow. From the earliest days of his presidency, questions followed him. About Russia, about the election, about legitimacy itself. No modern president had faced this level of investigation so early. The Russia cloud allegations of Russian interference in the 2016 election dominated headlines. Special counsel Robert Mueller was appointed. For nearly 2 years, witnesses testified, documents were examined. Leaks filled the news. Trump called it a witch hunt. To his critics, it was accountability. To his supporters, it was sabotage. The investigation consumed Washington, but Trump never stopped fighting the investigators. Trump did not cooperate quietly. He attacked investigators publicly. He questioned their motives. He framed the inquiry as an attempt to undo the election. This strategy worked with his base. They didn't see a president under investigation. They saw a president under attack. The Mueller report. In 2019, the Mueller report was released. It did not conclude that Trump conspired with Russia. It did not fully clear him either. Both sides claimed victory. Trump declared total exoneration. The conflict didn't end. It hardened. Impeachment, a first in his presidency. Later that year, Trump was impeached by the House of Representatives. The charge centered on Ukraine and abuse of power. Again, history was made. Trump became only the third U.S. president to be impeached, but the Senate acquitted him. To Trump, this wasn't survival, it was proof of strength. "I beat it," he said, defiance as a strategy. After impeachment, Trump grew bolder. He attacked institutions more openly. He dismissed norms. He governed through confrontation. Impeachment hadn't weakened him. It had confirmed his worldview, that politics was war, and war had no rules. A presidency at full speed, Trump pushed forward. Judges deregulation trade wars. Nationalist rhetoric supporters praised results. Critics warned of damage. America remained locked in conflict. In early 2020, Donald Trump was confident. The economy was strong. Unemployment was low. The stock market was high. Trump believed re-election was likely. Then, the world stopped. A virus changes everything. COVID-19 arrived quietly, and then violently. At first, Trump downplayed it. He compared it to the flu. He said it would disappear. He wanted calm, not panic. Critics say he underestimated the threat. Supporters say he tried to avoid chaos. Either way, the virus didn't listen. Hospitals filled, cities shut down, millions lost jobs. Trump faced a crisis no modern president had experienced. Science versus instinct. Trump never trusted experts easily. He relied on instinct, confidence, and optimism. Health officials spoke cautiously. Trump spoke boldly. He clashed publicly with scientists. He contradicted advisors on TV. To supporters, he looked decisive. To critics, he looked reckless. America argued again. Lockdowns and liberty. As states shut down, Trump emphasized reopening. He spoke about jobs, businesses, freedom. He feared economic collapse more than political backlash. Some governors resisted him. Others followed his lead. The country fractured, not just politically, but culturally. Masks, messaging, and mixed signals. Trump sent mixed messages. Sometimes he praised precautions. Sometimes he mocked them. Masks became political symbols. Public health became culture war. The presidency was no longer just about leadership. It was about interpretation. The election approaches. As the pandemic raged, the election loomed. Mail-in voting expanded. Trump warned of fraud. Supporters listened. Critics warned democracy was at risk. Trust, already fragile, weakened further. The 2020 election was not just about winning or losing. It was about trust, and trust in America was already fragile. Election night, uncertainty and claims. On November 3, 2020, Americans voted under extraordinary conditions: a pandemic, mail-in ballots, delayed counts. Early results favored Trump in several key states. Then, slowly, the numbers shifted. Joe Biden began to pull ahead. Trump reacted immediately. He claimed fraud. He claimed manipulation. He claimed the election was being stolen. Before counting was finished, Trump declared victory. Stop the steal. Trump refused to concede. Instead, he launched a campaign to challenge the results. Lawsuits were filed. Press conferences were held. Rallies were organized. Stop the steal became a movement. Courts rejected the claims. Officials certified results. But millions of Trump supporters believed him. To them, this wasn't politics. It was injustice. A president who would not accept defeat in American history, conceding peacefully, was tradition. Trump broke that tradition. He insisted the system was corrupt. The media lied. The courts failed. Supporters saw defiance. Critics saw danger. The country held its breath. January 6, 2021. On January 6th, Congress met to certify the election. Trump addressed supporters near the White House. He repeated claims of fraud. He urged them to fight. What happened next shocked the world. A crowd marched to the Capitol. Barriers were broken. The building was breached. Lawmakers fled. Police were overwhelmed. For the first time in modern history, the peaceful transfer of power was violently disrupted. Responsibility and reaction. Trump told supporters to go home, but late. Critics said he incited chaos. Supporters said he never intended violence. The nation argued over responsibility, but the damage was undeniable. The end of a presidency days. Later, Trump left the White House. No concession speech, no traditional farewell, just silence and controversy. His presidency ended not with closure, but with fracture. When Donald Trump left the White House in January 2021, many believed his political era was over. They were wrong. Trump no longer had the Oval Office. He no longer had official power, but he still had something just as strong: influence. A former president unlike any other. Most former presidents step back. They write memoirs, they give speeches, they avoid daily politics. Trump did the opposite. He stayed loud, he stayed visible, he stayed combative. From his base in Mar-a-Lago, Florida, Trump continued to shape the Republican Party. The loyalty test. Trump demanded loyalty. Republican leaders who defended him were rewarded. Those who criticized him were attacked. Primaries became battlegrounds. Trump-backed candidates rose. Traditional conservatives struggled. The party was changing, and Trump was still in control of its direction. Legal storms. Begin. At the same time, legal pressure increased. Investigations surrounded him. Business practices, taxes, classified documents, election-related actions. For the first time in U.S. history, a former president faced multiple criminal indictments. Trump framed it all the same way. This is political persecution. Supporters believed him. Critics saw accountability. The divide deepened. Victim or fighter. Trump embraced the role of the hunted outsider. He used indictments as proof of corruption. He turned courtrooms into campaign stages. Every charge became fundraising fuel. Every accusation became a rally cry. Where others would retreat, Trump attacked. Media, truth, and narrative control. Trump never stopped fighting the media. He claimed Fake news, deep state, weaponized justice. In an era of fragmented truth, his message spread fast. Facts mattered less than belief, and belief was his greatest weapon. Preparing for a comeback quietly, then loudly, Trump prepared to run again. He teased it. He hinted. He finally announced. Not as a comeback story, but as unfinished business. Donald Trump didn't present his return as a second chance. He framed it as a rescue mission. They tried to destroy me. When Trump announced his run for president again, his message was clear. They didn't just come after me, they came after you. I was just in the way. This idea became the core of his campaign. He wasn't running for himself, he was running for his people. At least that's how he told it. A campaign fueled by anger and memory. Trump's rallies looked familiar. Same music, same slogans, same sharp attacks. But the tone was darker. He spoke of revenge retribution. Enemies within supporters cheered. Critics warned that this wasn't normal politics anymore. It was grievance turned into strategy. The Republican Party transformed. By now, the Republican Party had changed. Trump wasn't just a leader, he was the filter. Candidates were judged by one question. Are you loyal to Trump? Those who said yes survived. Those who said no disappeared. Ideology mattered less than allegiance. Legal cases versus political momentum. Court dates and campaign dates collided. Trump appeared in court, then at rallies the same week. To his supporters, this proved strength. To opponents, it proved danger. Never before had a presidential candidate run while facing so many legal battles. America watched, confused, divided, exhausted. America at a crossroads. The country wasn't just choosing a president, it was choosing what truth means, what power looks like, what democracy tolerates. Trump represented disruption. To some, he was the last defense against a broken system. To others, he was the greatest threat that system had ever faced. There was no middle ground, the man and the myth. By this point, Trump had become more than a man. He was a symbol. People didn't just support or oppose him. They believed in him or feared him. Facts bounced off belief. Emotion ruled. Donald Trump's story is unlike any other in modern American history. From real estate mogul to reality TV star, from president to former president, his life has been a constant spectacle of risk, defiance, and reinvention. Changing politics. Trump transformed American politics. He proved that media attention can outweigh traditional political experience. He shifted the Republican Party to a loyalty-based system. He normalized confrontational and emotional rhetoric in presidential discourse. His methods are studied, copied, criticized, but undeniable. Polarization and engagement. Trump polarized the nation like few before him. Supporters are fiercely loyal. Critics are deeply opposed. But this polarization also increased engagement. People care more about politics now. People debate, protest, vote, rally, sometimes loudly, sometimes violently. Trump made politics unavoidable. Pop culture and celebrity politics. Trump blurred the line between celebrity and politics. Reality TV skills translated into rallies. Media spectacle became political strategy. Personal brand became political brand. He created a new blueprint for 21st century political influence. Legal and ethical precedents. No U.S. president before faced multiple indictments after leaving office. Trump challenged norms of accountability, media scrutiny, and public perception. Supporters see courage, critics see recklessness. But history will record. He changed what is considered possible for a former president. Global impact. Trump reshaped U.S. foreign policy, challenged multilateral agreements, reconsidered trade deals, took unconventional stances with allies and adversaries. Even when controversial, his impact was undeniable. The myth versus the man. Trump's legacy is dual. The man, controversial, flawed, defiant. The myth, outsider, fighter, disruptor, icon. Americans will argue about which defines him for decades.